Welcome, everybody, to this webinar on think tanks in China. My name is Enrique Mendizabal. I'm very glad to see so many familiar faces on the webinar today, and I'm sure we'll have many more joining us later. This webinar is being led by Professor Li from Nanjing University in the Department of Information Management, who is Deputy Director of the China Think Tank Center for Research and Evaluation at the same university. Yeah, he's going to lead this conversation with a short presentation on the 2017 China Think Tank Index Report, its methodology, its findings, and what this means for the future of think tanks in China, a subject that I know we're all very interested in. Good evening, Professor Li. Sorry, I had you. You were muted, so please go ahead now. We can hear you now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, thank you.
Yeah. My name is Gang Li. I'm a professor of Nanjing University. You means I should introduce CCTI first?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah. CCTI, Chinese Think Tank Index, is a cooperative project developed by Nanjing University and Guangming Daily. By the way, Guangming Daily has the same state in China as Washington Post in the United States. It is very authoritative. CCTI think tank assessment is a third-party process and outcome-oriented evaluation of think tanks in terms of their capacity and efficiency of resources utilization. The original purpose of CTTI was to collect information from think tanks and compile a list of the most comprehensive Chinese think tanks. Evaluation is one of the main tasks of our center. Another more important task is to compile a catalog of think tanks in China according to the actual situation. Catalog is actually online database, which is the object of our research and evaluation. Of course, those think tanks are active and voluntary in providing us with detailed data. This data include the basic information of think tanks, results information, activities information, and media reporting information, etc. The staff of our center will recheck the information filled in by all think tanks to ensure the accuracy of the information. I can briefly introduce the methods of evaluating the data of think tanks and ranking them. The evaluation adopts.
Yes, please. If you can tell us how, what kind of information you collect and how you rank them, that would be very interesting.
Okay. We collect 4 kinds of information. The basic information of think tanks. When the think tank established how the budget of the think tanks and how many people in the think tanks and how many papers and reports they made every year, so many informations.
So is that, for instance, when you collect information about the number of staff in the think tank, is it disaggregated by the roles they play, gender, age, for example?
Yes. We ask the think tanks tell us how many people how many people are full-time or part-time,
Right.
how their what's their degrees, PhD or master or just a bachelor degree, and and how many and the ages, yeah, about the staffs and fellows.
Okay. And then how do you go on ranking what's the method to rank the think tanks in this from this comprehensive list?
Okay. The methods of evaluation is we use two kinds of data. Well, some data about the think tanks and their people and their activities and productions. These data are provided by the think tanks. Another is we will invite some experts or some officials from the government. They will rank and give their give their opinions about the think tank's reputation. So we have two kind of data. One is objective, one is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Then we will add these two kinds of in the depending their importance. So we rank think tanks by this way. No, I know in China we also there are other centers do ranking, do think tank ranking. Some centers use only big data. They get from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Others centers when they do think tank ranking, they use make a big questionnaire and ask people give their opinions. But however, we use subject data and object data. This is our Q. This is our innovation.
Right.
Yeah, that's our approach.
Okay, and how many think tanks are you evaluating and ranking using this method?
About 700.
700 think tanks. So
Yeah. 700.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us what the results are?
Sorry.
Maybe for the can you tell us which ones are the top 5 or the ones that come up top, for example?
The top five think tank are changed every year.
Okay.
But traditionally the top 5 the top 5 think tanks in China. One is China 中国社科院，你们自己说。Sorry, wait a minute.
The famous one think tank in China, its name is Social Science Academy.
Right.
China Social Science Academy.
Okay. The China Academy of Social.
Yes.
sciences?
It's very, very large.
Exactly.
This think tank has 4,000 staff.
Exactly.
Fellows.
Right.
Yeah.
And is that the one? But is that the one that comes top of your evaluation, or is that the best known think tank in China?
I don't understand.
Pardon? Can you say the question?
So is the China Academy of Social Sciences the think tank that comes top in your evaluation, or is that the think tank that is just better known in China, is the most famous one?
There are some think tanks that are very famous in China, but this think tank is better known in China and even in the world.
Okay, and so you mentioned there are other rankings that use different methods. Yours combines both objective and subjective measurements. Are there big differences in the top 5 or the top 10 think tanks that these different methods identify?
This is a very good question. In general, every ranking, think tank ranking, can in the top 5 or in the top 10, we will draw the same conclusion.
Right.
But we have many difference in the top 15, top 50 or top 100. Yeah,
right.
Because the top 5 or top 10 are so best known in China. Every people, especially experts, give their opinions. They already know which is the best in China. But
right.
I can tell you, even the top first Chinese social academy, in some extent, we did not think it is a modern think tank because there are many centers or institute with them do the pure research. They did not do the strategy or policy research, such as history, literature, and arts, and other things.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Which is interesting because it takes us to another question that I always have, which is about the label think tanks, right? So we work in the field of think tanks. We talk to people about think tanks all the time, but often we find that what some people understand is a think tank is not what we understand as a think tank. So there are many perceptions or views of what a think tank is or should be. In Peru, where I am now, think tanks are very different from, for example, British think tanks. And I would expect think tanks in China to be different from British or American think tanks in the same way. And in China, we hear a lot about new think tanks with Chinese characteristics. And in your report, this is how think tanks are described. Could you tell us a little bit more about what is meant by this phrase of think tanks with Chinese characteristics? What is it about? What are those characteristics that make it a Chinese think tank?
Good. This is a very good question. I would like to introduce a think tank definition in China. Even in China, we have the same understanding of the think tank. I often I think in China, our people are enlarge the scale of the modern think tank. Yeah, But I also can say something about the think tank with Chinese characteristics. Compared with Western think tanks with Chinese characteristics have the following characteristics. Firstly, most think tanks in China are supported by government's official fundings, and do not need to think too much about fundraising issues. My point is most of China's think tank can get money from government. Secondly, many think tanks in China belong to college, to university, and university think tanks. Thirdly, Chinese think tanks do more research and consulting work, and do not care much about how to shape the brand image in the hearts of the Chinese people. Fourthly, in China, there are many types of national think tanks, which are broader than Western think tanks, such as party and government think tanks, Academy of Social Science think tanks, party school of administration think tanks, even media think tanks, etc. That's my points.
So it's a combination of factors. I guess what makes this Chinese think tanks is the collection of think tanks, right? So heavily funded by government, but I guess there are think tanks that fall outside of that category. Some think tanks are any think tanks funded by other sources besides government?
Yes, my point is most of China's think tank is a part of the government system, not not a parliament of society. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But now we already realize this is a question. Many NGOs build some think tanks. Even some NGOs called ZR think tanks in China. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But the NGO think tanks are very small in China think tank system.
Right.
Yeah.
And so since President Xi announced and called for more think tanks, more new think tanks with Chinese characteristics, there has been a sort of a boom in the number of think tanks in China. There's an increase in think tanks. How has this changed the way policymaking is done in China? Have think tanks been able to affect not just the content of policy, but the way policy is carried out?
Yes. President Xi called for more think tanks in China. I think this is a very good thing because in the old ages, China's policy community, in some instances, was very close. But when President Xi called for build more new think tanks, so many scholars and many people in the universities can provide their opinions to the central government, to the province governments. So I think because of the new think tank, China's policy community became more open, more transparency, and more open. Yeah, that's good things. Yeah. So I can see now China's policy system became more open. So the scholars and the intellectuals in China have some extent impact, policy impact to the government. That's my opinion.
And is this impact coming from not just the top 5 think tanks, the larger think tanks, but also from smaller think tanks? Maybe those specializing on a particular subject, maybe those focus on a particular region. So do you think that influence or there's an effect from think tanks to policy at all levels, or is it just the larger ones, the bigger ones?
All levels, because some small think tanks has their professional area. Also, the top 1 think tank is very large, but in some special policy areas, they did not have enough have enough research, but some small think tanks perhaps do many detail and deep research. So they have even more authority in these opinions, in these policy areas. Yeah, I know some of these small think tanks, but are very have the opinion power to the government.
Okay, and Milton here asks a question. He says, "What was the motivation behind the president calling for more think tanks? Was there a need or a gap that he was trying to address? Is it to make China more competitive? Is it to improve society? What was behind this call for more think tanks?"
According to my opinion, President calling for more think tanks. He's perhaps he said the old policy system cannot make very good deals for the current social questions, current the global governance. So he think, China's questions became more and more complicated. Yeah, some in the old ages we only have the top 5 or top 10 large think tanks do policy surveys for the president, but the president did not satisfy these old think tanks. He think we need more small but professional think tanks do research for him. That's my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, in a way, you're adding a bit of plurality into the discussion, right? So you're not just basing your decisions on the advice of 1 or 2 institutions, but you're basing your decisions on the advice of more institutions, and therefore your decisions are better informed. So I think that's it's a good motivation, if any. And now to create, to help develop these think tanks, I understand, I was reading in your book that there are offices for the building of new type of think tank. Can you tell us what these offices are, what they do? I mean, how, I understand it's not just a request or an encouragement for more think tanks to be established, but there's also a policy to try to help more think tanks to be developed, right?
Okay. 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 I know your question. Sorry. In China, from the central government to provinces, think tank management departments have been set up in government agencies to undertake the governance of think tanks. The main content of their work is to certify the qualifications of think tank. That is to see whether an organization meets the requirements of becoming a think tank. Secondly,
Sorry, we cannot hear you. We lost your audio. No.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay, sorry. Secondly, the government think tank management departments gave the money to the think tanks. Thirdly, the performance of think tanks should be assessed regularly. The fourth is to provide policy for the development of Chinese think tanks. The last is to be a bridge between government and the think tank, which could be very helpful to reduce the information symmetry. This is why very different from the way think tanks operate in the West or any other Western countries.
So I mean, it's interesting because it's think tanks not being left to their own devices. So there is not just a policy, but there's also a policy to support the formation of think tanks. And I also understand this has been accompanied by research about think tanks in China. So your effort is a research effort, and there are other organizations carrying out research about Chinese think tanks at the same time.
Yes. Wait a minute.
Okay. So
sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, we did not. We just know it did not got you. What's your meaning? Please say again.
All right, I was just saying that where in other contexts, think tanks are in a way seen as an optional kind of organization. So there's no policy from the government in the UK or in the US or in Peru, for instance, for there to be more think tanks. It's if they exist and they have good advice, we might listen to them. But in China, there is a policy from the government for there to be more think tanks, and therefore it's trying to support think tanks in their development. It's trying to ensure they have high quality. It's also promoting the research of think tanks. So, for example, yourself, Professor Xu Feng at Tsinghua University, you undertake research about think tanks as well. So it's become a subject of study. And not just an organization that may or may not exist, which I think is an interesting difference between what we find in think tanks in China and what we might find in think tanks in other parts of the world. There's a question from Faisal in Saudi Arabia. How come foreign countries issue unbiased judgment by think tanks when it's about relations with Chinese government? If the think tank is affiliated to the government?
This is a very good question. I think Chinese think tanks are provide service for the government. We can, I think China's government, Chinese think tanks will do research and provide opinions according to China's interest. Yeah, but every think tanks want to build their reputation in the country or in the international. So I do not think Chinese foreign policy think tanks attend to give the wrong opinions to the for the governments. That's my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a nice balancing act of being independent at the same time, not going too far on your own. A related question from Milton. He asks, so there are think tanks carrying out research on economic, trade, social policy, etc. But are there other forms of government research? So are there, for instance, government departments in ministries that are undertaking research separate from think tanks? And what would be the difference between those two?
Yeah. This is a very good question. Yes, there are many kinds of research organizations do for the government. I think universities research organization will can stand in the some extent critical stance, but some research organizations within the government systems, they will do more practical policy for the government. They will accept the same stance with the government.
Right.
This is like the West. Scholars always have more critical to the government. It's true in China. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there are more providers of research to the government than just think tanks. So also universities, also researchers within government.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I had a question about when we were talking about the ranking, the criteria you use to assess the think tanks, the characteristics of think tanks, and in the 27 think tank index report, there's a mention to top think tanks, and I had a question about what made a top think tank, or what is it that a top think tank does that other think tanks don't?
Okay, I think the top think tanks in China, they have more fundings, they have more relationships, deeper relationships with government, with the national media. So they have more capacity to organize large-scale research, and the national or international activities. But if you are local think tanks, or only a small universities think tanks, you have no enough resources to do these things. Yeah, but if you want to resolve the current government governance questions, I think the local and the provincial and the small universities think tanks have more opportunities to do these things. They are different. Yeah. In general, the large think tanks have more resources to do the large things, the large researches.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But it doesn't mean that they are more influential at the local level or at the level that they work in. Because what you're saying is that even a smaller think tank at a provincial level might have more influence over the government and therefore over the lives of many people than a national think tank looking at kind of big picture issues. It might be better known, it might have more resources, but at the same time, it might be a bit more farther away from policy making, local government, etc.
Yeah, but in the policy policy making process, the best knowing experts in the large think tanks, they have more information about the government. Right. They have more relationship with the governments. So there are advantages. Yeah. So their opinions, their briefs often more correct, often more informed.
Okay, and so given this division between the top think tanks and the rest, Enrique Panels asks, have any of the think tanks given feedback to the report? What have been the consequences of the report? Has the report have any impact on think tanks, on public opinion about think tanks? What has been your experience about it?
Sorry. Okay.
Were any of the results surprising? Has any think tank given feedback to the report?
哪一个问题？是谁啊？ Okay, I'm glad to get their feedback of our ranking report. Yeah. 问题是什么？就是有没有人对我们项目结合得到一些Sorry. Some people told me our report is more professional. Yeah, but some people told me our method. There are some serious questions in our method because not every think tanks want to give their information to us. So if we use this method, some think tanks, especially the very famous think tanks, the very large think tanks, sometimes they don't care us because they are famous enough, but the small and unknowing think tanks want to use our catalog to enlarge their reputation. They made them more best known in the national. So these small and local and provincial or general universities think tanks pay more attention to our catalog, to our system. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, that makes sense. So in a related question, Faisal asks, especially for those smaller think tanks, do you rank the think tanks in one single list, or do you by sect or by interest or by region, for example?
I'm sorry, because there are some problems in the internet.
Okay, so I'll ask again. So when you evaluate them and you rank them, do you have a single list, or do you also rank them by subject matter, for example, on economic policy or on social policy, or also maybe by province, maybe the top think tanks in a single province or at the national level? So are there these differences?
Yes, we evaluate think tanks from many subject and from many policy areas. Even we evaluate think tanks from according to their categories.
Right.
For example, we take all universities' think tanks evaluate together. So we divided several, even more, 10 think tank categories to do evaluate one by one.
Okay, so it's possible to be top in the section of university think tanks, or to be top in a particular subject, and not necessarily in the long list. Now, Raymond Stoic has a question which I think is in everybody's mind, which is how was the effectiveness of a think tank in the policy process measured? So how did you measure how effective a think tank is in informing the policy process? Is this part of the subjective data that you ask, you survey policymakers, or does this come out in the objective part of the assessment?
Yes. Do you know? In within China's think tanks, we have a very special working approach, such as China's think tank send their internal reference to the government leaders. Do you know the internal reference? Internal reference like the brief, but it is not the brief. Sometimes government experts write a paper about 3,000 words to the leaders, give their advice, and all suggest their how to make a deal with in the policy, or how to express their words in a speech in the international affairs. Yeah. This is in some instances, this is all secret. It's not open to the public.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, is this how you track the effectiveness? So it's by looking at the submissions and how the submissions have been used.
Yeah. Sometimes China's central government leaders or the provincial leaders, when they accept this internal difference, they will write their opinions in the papers. So
right.
if one think tank got this opinions, we think they have more impact to the government. Have more influence to the government.
Okay.
So,
and do you? So go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when we evaluate the think tank's policy influence, we want to know how many leaders opinions give you every year. If one think tanks gave 20 such opinions from the government leaders, we think this think tank is more influent than the others. This is
but this information that they provide, the think tanks provide to you directly, right? It's not something that you can verify objectively, right? It's information that the think tanks have to provide to your team, and I guess that the government has to provide this to the think tank as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, and what about mentions in the media, for example, in editorials or by other think tanks or by other organizations? Are those mentions also considered when you're looking at the effectiveness of think tanks?
Yes, media's opinion is very important information when we evaluate think tanks, because China's leaders divided into two kinds of. One we called the state media, the main media. Yeah, this media, if think tanks can publish their articles in the national medias, they can have more influence in the national scale, in the national. So we sometimes also want to know a think tank can how many articles the think tanks publish in the national medias 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
This is also a metric. Yeah, but the public opinions, we cannot find a metric to measure the public's opinion. How to measure the public's opinions. So when we do think tank evaluation, we often want to find metrics we can measure, we can get. Right. So in this point, the public's opinion is not important in China, because China's think tank did not need to get monies from the public, from the general people. Yeah.
Okay. And let me ask you one of the final questions I have before I leave it to the audience to add any more questions. because I wanted to ask this. In the report, which I have here, I'm happy. It's a beautifully designed report. There's a mention, and I was trying to understand exactly what it is, of the CTTI Plus platform, which I understand it's a kind of almost a digital repository, but more than that, right? It's can you explain what it is or what it does? Because I think it provides a useful tool for think tanks in China. But I was curious about that, and I wanted to ask you directly.
Okay, I got it. CTTI and CTTI Plus are think tanks vertical search system, think tank data management system, and think tank online evaluation system. So CTTI have three functions. Yeah, one is search system, another is information management, data management system. The last is the online evaluation system. Yeah. CTTI Plus is a new version development on the basis of CTTI. The new structure of CTTI Plus is reflected in two aspects: innovative think tanks, cloud management function, and the think tank communities. Because in the CTTI Plus, every think tank can use this system to manage their data, their production data, their active data. So
right.
If the think tank in China have this CTTI Plus cloud accountant, he can use our system to manage it and to evaluate their data, to evaluate their people. Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah.
So you are turning your method into a tool for them. So they can upload the information about their organization, but they can use it themselves. They can use it to evaluate themselves and their staff and their teams, etc.
Yes.
And when you say that it's a search, has a search function, does that mean that it allows the user to find information about the think tanks, or does it allow the user to find information published by the think tanks, for example, papers or articles or opinions?
Yeah, all of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all of them. If you have a task to do, if you want to find people to do special policy areas, you can search our system to find the people you want. Yeah. If you have
sorry, go ahead. So the government could use this to find experts in a particular subject, or a think tank could use it to find somebody to work with on a particular subject, maybe in another organization.
Yeah, even we find a function we did not think about, such as some think tanks use our system to recruit new members. 招募新人.
One of Professor Lee's PhD students, I understand Vicky has shared the link on the chat box. We'll share it when we share the video as well, so that you can have a look at the Chinese think tank index system, which I think it's in it's in Chinese, but I'm sure we can learn how to navigate through it. So it allows think tanks to update their own information, which I guess would make it easier for you to evaluate them. But it also provides a service to think tanks and to other users who like to learn more about what Chinese think tanks are working on and what they are all about. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
Great. All right, that's interesting. So I mean, just great. I was looking for the link and I couldn't find it, so I think that will answer many questions. Are there any other? We're just about on time, so I wonder if there's anything else you wanted to say and to add to this conversation. Maybe it's a way of closing the session.
Yes. In the last, I want to express my it's my 感谢 strike. In the last, I want to say thank you for the strike, Raymond strike.
All right.
Yeah. Raymond strike is online now.
Yes, he is. Yes.
Yeah. He is our old friend, and sometimes come here to work with us together.
Okay. Yes. Well, we thank him also for putting us in touch. And but let me ask a final question, because I think it's a question that it's always on everybody's mind when we are talking about Chinese think tanks. And Hector Soto has asked this question, and I think it's important to ask it. What is the ability of Chinese think tanks to introduce their own agendas? And because there's the perception that Chinese think tanks, being part of the state apparatus, they don't have that intellectual autonomy. But how much can they affect the agenda themselves, so independently from the state?
Yes, I want to tell every friend, although new think tank movement is so short, but China's new think tanks already have some capacity to influence government's policy process. Yeah, and also make China's policy making decision system more modern and more open. That's why our teams spend so many times to do these things.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because I know there are going to be more questions, would it be possible to share your email with the participants of this webinar so that they might be able to follow up with any questions they have?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So we'll share it after the we'll send it out to those who subscribed, and we will share it with those. So if you have any more questions that I see you have, but we'd like to finish these webinars on time so that people who we finish on a high rather than waiting for that moment when nobody else has a question. This has been a lovely conversation. Thank you very much. It was very much worth it getting up at 6 a.m. here in Peru. And the webinar has been recorded. We will be uploading it soon on our YouTube channel, and we will be sharing it through our various channels, newsletters, social media, etc. So do sign up to a newsletter. It's the best way to get updates about upcoming webinars and more information. Thank you very much, Professor Lee, to you and your team. Thank you, Raymond, for putting us in touch. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We look forward to the 2018 evaluation.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for my roasted English.
No, not at all. It was perfect. Thank you. And Vicky has added her email. So If anybody has any questions, I'm sure she and the team will be happy to answer them. I'm sure we'll have many questions.
NG 里有想。
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.